I want the future to be way better than this world here, and I want everybody to have peace and justice. So, like, I want the bullying to stop, because people don't do nothing wrong sometimes.
I want it to look like black people and white people can get along. And if a black person is walking on the streets, like a 15-year-old black man, he can feel safe, and his mom can feel safe, and so can his dad.
One of the analogies I like to use is if you see a huge tree in front of you, you run by it every day, you know, you're not going to be able to really reach your full potential if that tree is in your way, if those trees are in your way. So the best way to keep moving forward and move forward efficiently is by cutting those trees down. And I think once you admit that those trees are there, and once you admit that those issues are there, the best way to be able to fix it is to cut them down.
I just want to go to a peaceful school, going to like middle school. I just don't want to have no problems. I don't want to draw that much attention to myself at all.
We have a history of being able to persevere and come together, and we come together the right way. And you know, it's never always going to be perfect, but you know, part of what makes us proud is being able to learn from our mistakes and to be able to find the answers together.
Breonna Taylor, David McAtee. She was a former EMT, he a beloved West End businessman. They are the people behind every protest demanding change in our community.
Demonstrators say they will not stop marching until that change happens. For 9 straight nights, protesters are marching in Louisville on what would have been Breonna Taylor's 27th birthday. And for the 9th night in a row, our own Chad Mills is with them. Chad.
And right now they shout 3 words: do your job, looking over at the federal courthouse, hoping that federal investigators and others will hear their cry once again. The 9th night in a row that there have been protests here in Louisville, and the message tonight has been a powerful and peaceful one so far. For a time there, they met up at Metro Hall. There was a moment where they paused for 8 minutes, 46 seconds, honoring, not only Mr. Floyd, but Breonna Taylor as well. And I have to tell you, standing in the middle of that, hardly a face in the crowd that didn't have a tear streaming down a cheek as they cried out for help in agony during that mostly long moment of silence. After that, they projected the image of Breonna Taylor on the side of Metro Hall with a large projector, something like you'd see at a movie theater, casting her image, painted or drawn by a local artist, on the side of the mayor's office. They hope that the mayor will see that as they continue striving for justice in Breonna Taylor's case. And today, of course, would have been her 27th birthday. That hasn't been lost on this crowd either. There have been birthday cakes, there have been fireworks. They sang happy birthday here just minutes ago, standing outside this federal courthouse where they have stood for many nights in a row now, hoping their message will carry through those thick granite walls, hoping that people inside will hear their message of unity and equality and a message striving for justice. They've marched a little bit through downtown Louisville, and we're not sure what they're going to do yet. Probably a safe bet that they're going to continue to walk. Tonight is the 2nd night in a row since the curfew was lifted by Mayor Greg Fisher around 2 o'clock this afternoon. They have covered many miles in previous nights, and we expect they might do that again here tonight. Travis Ragsdale, also in this crowd, watching here at the federal courthouse. We'll send things over to Travis to see what he's seeing.
Yeah, Chad, we're kind of in the back of the group here across the street from the federal courthouse. You can see several hundred people out here this evening demanding justice for Breonna Taylor, of course, like you mentioned, her 27th birthday tonight. Some similarities to previous marches this week. At this point, no police, no National Guard, no Kentucky State Police out here that we've seen so far. LMPD has said that as long as things remain peaceful, that they will avoid this group and allow them to march as they want to through the streets of Louisville. Of course, that was a different story earlier this week on Monday, when before the curfew hour even reached at 9 o'clock, LMPD and state police moved in to break up the crowd. We haven't seen that since. We haven't seen much law enforcement presence since that night. This crowd, largely peaceful, like you mentioned, overwhelmingly so. There was a quick march through the streets of downtown. They came back to Jefferson Square Park, where that projection of Breonna Taylor was up on the mayor's office walls outside. And now here. Again, unsure where they'll go tonight. Previously, they've gone up Bardstown Road into the Highlands. They've gone down into the West End. So all over the place, all over Louisville, this group has been. We're seeing a lot of familiar faces, some of the same people that we've seen throughout these protests. We hear fireworks going off in the distance. We've heard quite a few of those tonight for Breonna's birthday. But again, no knowing where they'll be going tonight. We'll keep an eye on things out here on the streets. Chad and I will as we go through the night and as this protest continues. Guys?
Chad and Travis, thanks so much. Breonna Taylor's mother visiting Jefferson Square Park this afternoon and thanking protesters there for demanding action for the past 9 days.
I'm so grateful to everybody. I don't understand. Like, it started off lonely, but it's so amazing to see so many people standing up for her and saying her name and trust. If it was anybody else, Breonna would be out here doing the same thing.
As WDRB's Katrina Helmer shows us, this afternoon was all about women.
Everybody's looking at Louisville. Everybody's looking at Breonna.
Being out here is bittersweet. Even though we're celebrating her birth, it's behind her death.
Tables stacked with cupcakes, stations to make birthday cards, flowers, art, signs. It says a lot.
We just love the love.
And there's power in unity.
What would have been Breonna Taylor's birthday, it's now called Sisters Friday, giving a megaphone to the female voice.
What happened to Breonna Taylor is not okay. She should be able to be out here and celebrate her 27th birthday.
Taylor was shot and killed on March 13th by undercover LMPD officers. They used a no-knock warrant to enter her home. In the process, her boyfriend shot at police, saying he thought someone was breaking in. Police fired back, killing Taylor. There were no drugs found in the home. Louisville erupting in protests, violence, marches, seeking justice.
The purpose and the meaning for today is for the women to show that we are also unified and to let our voices be heard. We're not just sitting at home cooking. We've been out here 9 days just like everyone else.
Breonna's voice was silenced, but these voices will be her legacy.
I'm hoping to see laws change. I'm hoping to see the communities change. I'm hoping to see the whole world change.
And 4 words echo throughout the nation. Happy birthday, Breonna Taylor.
Happy birthday, Taylor.
From California to Wisconsin, groups stopped during their protests last night to sing happy birthday.
And the University of Louisville, U of L Health, creating a nursing scholarship in honor of Breonna Taylor. The Breonna Taylor Memorial Scholarship Fund will cover full tuition and fees for 4 years. When choosing a recipient, U of L says preference will be given to black women from Kentucky. Taylor was a former EMT with U of L Health. Members of the University of Louisville Black Student Union announced that scholarship today.
He gave the eulogy at the George Floyd Memorial Service, and this weekend Reverend Jesse Jackson is coming to Louisville with Breonna Taylor in mind. The iconic civil rights leader will speak Sunday morning at St. Stephen Church. Organizers say Jackson's message focuses on why our nation is in such turmoil.
You will get to hear a discussion about from a man who's been where we are, as well as solutions and what America must do if we have the will to do it, to finally, after 401 years, to get beyond the impasse of race.
St. Stephen has not yet reopened to in-person worship because of COVID-19, but you can see the service online at 9:30 Sunday morning on YouTube, the church website, and Facebook Live. We place links to all 3 on WDRB.com.
Mark Weinberg's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
A lot of people stepped outside tonight. Some were able to see the International Space Station flyover and the newly launched Starlink satellites. I've got a lot of people on my pages that saw both, and it was kind of encouraging for people to see that. I think as we look around our area right now, it's pretty quiet. You can see there's some high clouds, and that is something that has been out there. We'll be out there probably for 3/4 of the night, but at the same time, these are not overcast, low-hanging clouds, and that's what it looks like as we're outside right now. Our current reading is coming in at 81 degrees. We've got a dew point that's still pretty high. So the dew point's at 68. The humidity has not dropped off yet. An advanced track shows as we move through the overnight hours, these high clouds stick with us, and you can see we've got them at 3 a.m. But watch as we start things off on Saturday. You'll notice the clouds are really starting to move southward. So what I think we're going to see tomorrow is more clouds very, very early on in the day, and then just your normally cumulus clouds that you see heat of the afternoon. But I'll keep us partly cloudy during the overnight hours for the exact reason I just showed you, and it is going to be a mild one. At 4 a.m. we're at around 75 degrees, and I think we'll start off at 7 a.m. under patchy fog with the temperature coming in at 72. Part of your weekend humid, part not so much. So let's talk about the effects of this cold front in 10 minutes.
All right, Mark, thank you. And the celebration continues for Breonna Taylor's 27th birthday. These protesters are now on the move, walking down Broadway. We will continue to follow them coming up. A Louisville restaurant is filing a lawsuit for loss of business during the coronavirus shutdown. Berenice Fusion on Frankfort Avenue filed a lawsuit against Erie Insurance, Kentucky's health commissioner, the Cabinet for the Health and Family Services Secretary, and the Public Protection Cabinet Secretary. The order to shut down came on March 16th. Since then, Berenice said it's lost business because of the shutdown. The restaurant also wants its insurance company to pay up because of its policy that it says covers civil authority interruption.
Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb is taking action to help communities get back to work.
As we transition and have plans in place, we wanted to make sure we were connecting with directly the individual, the people.
The governor's workforce cabinet is launching Rapid Recovery for a Better Future. It's meant to help Hoosiers grow skills to secure a job. That program includes online resources, financial aid for those wanting to go to school, and career coach help. The $50 million from the CARES Act will drive that program.
We're prepared to work alongside our partners in scaling these programs to ensure that Hoosiers are prepared to take the next step toward getting a new job or skill up for a better job with their current or a new employer.
Meanwhile, State Health Commissioner Dr. Christina Box says she's encouraging protesters to get tested. She says some are wearing masks, but some aren't, and that'll increase the risk of the virus spreading. Dr. Box is encouraging people who tested negative before to get retested.
The Kentucky Museum of Art and Crafts says it will be back in business on June 19th. The museum in downtown Louisville has been closed since March 14th because of the coronavirus outbreak. Visitors will be required to wear masks at all times, use hand sanitizer when arriving, and practice social distancing. The museum is also asking guests to provide an email or phone number for contact tracing purposes.
They've gathered since early afternoon, and tonight they march east on Broadway seeking justice for Breonna Taylor. More coming up here on WDRB News.
Probably one of the nicest days in the next 7 occurs this weekend. Let's talk sunshine, mid-80s, and most importantly, low humidity. Next.
It's night number 9 of protests in Louisville, but tonight has another meaning to it. It is Breonna Taylor's 27th birthday, and her family, friends, and complete strangers are hoping to honor and celebrate her life.
And they've been doing that all day. They're doing it now with a march that seems to be headed toward the Highlands and Baxter and Bardstown Road, possibly. They're at Broadway in Hancock, where we join WDRB's Chad Mills. Chad?
And guys, there have been birthday cakes, there has been singing of happy birthday, there have been fireworks and more as they celebrate Breonna Taylor's what should have been her 27th birthday. Yes, we just crossed through the intersection with Hancock Street. These protesters marching east on Broadway. In previous nights, they've taken this route to get to Bardstown Road, Baxter Avenue, the Highlands area. We're not yet sure where they're headed tonight, but for now anyway, they're headed in that direction. Again, this has been a peaceful protest. I was watching just a moment ago, someone actually chucked a water bottle from the line toward the sidewalk. A guy ran out of the line, sprinted over to it, threw it right in a trash can. Again, they want the narrative to be one of peaceful protest here in Louisville on this day that would have been her 27th birthday. There are mainly younger people in this column of protesters, some very young. I was introduced to some 8-year-olds, a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, number of children out here participating in this march. At one point, they were carrying the banner with Breonna Taylor's face at the front of the line, walking down the street. They actually paused on Main Street for a moment, cheered on those children as they shouted, "No justice, no peace," and experienced what they believe will be an historic march. It's part of a long week and a half of marches through Louisville. Actually looks like they might be turning right, so south, on Clay Street right now. So not heading toward the Highlands area for just a moment, turning onto Clay. They might just regroup here, give some speeches and whatnot. They haven't stopped for quite a while, going straight down Broadway. It's kind of spread the line pretty thin in spots as people try to keep up. We're more toward the front, but I think the line goes back for several blocks behind us. Travis Ragsdale also walking along. Travis, what are you seeing from your perspective?
Yeah, Chad, we're a few blocks behind you. We just passed Hancock Street ourselves, so we can't see yet that we're turning up on Clay Street, it sounds like. You know, important to get the context here of what this group of protesters want, what they're demanding of the city and the mayor tonight, and for what they have been for the past week and a half. Breonna Taylor, a former EMT, ER tech, was inside of her apartment when a drug raid was conducted, in which officers burst into her apartment. Her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, believed that somebody was breaking into the apartment. He fired one shot at those officers, hitting one in the leg. Those officers fired back, shooting Breonna Taylor and killing her. Those 3 officers are now on leave: Jonathan Mattingly, Brent Hankerson, and Miles Cosgrove. They're under investigation, but that's not good enough for this group. They want those 3 officers fired. They want them prosecuted for Breonna Taylor's death, much like you saw those officers up in Minneapolis in the death of George Floyd. And it doesn't seem like they're going to rest until they get it. Of course, Mayor Fisher has said repeatedly that it's not that easy. He can't just fire the officers. That's because of the collective bargaining agreement that the city has with the police union here. As you see, a number of people getting water bottles tossed to them from the caravan of cars that is moving alongside with this group. But that's what this group wants. They want those officers fired, and they want them prosecuted. Whether they get it or not remains to be seen, but those are the demands, at least the most prevalent demands. There's been a number of changes already made. No-knock warrants have been suspended in Louisville, among other changes that the mayor has made. Police Chief Steve Conrad was fired. But still, this group wants more, and they're hoping to get more. And the hope is, with these protests, that's exactly what they'll get, but that remains to be seen. Guys?
Travis Ragsdale and Chad Mills reporting there, guys. Thank you. As protesters are calling for justice for a 9th straight night, Louisville isn't the only place seeing protests. WDRB's Dalton Godby shows us how they've poured over into rural communities.
It all starts with conversation and empathy and understanding and listening, and that's what we tried to do down here. We care about everybody in our community.
The call for change began in cities like Louisville, but quickly poured into smaller, more rural communities.
The Black Lives Matters message is a critical message that we should all listen to.
Protests in many cities across the state, across the country, from those in Harlan County, Corbin, to Shelbyville and Elizabethtown. City leaders say it's all been peaceful.
No community's perfect, and that includes ours. But we opened up conversation to be able to work on some things that maybe need some work, and we acknowledge that there's always things that we can do better.
In both E-Town and Shelbyville, city leaders and law enforcement have been involved in the protests.
The sheriff, the police chief, the mayor, the county judge, citizens, are all coming together to talk about this in a rationalized manner.
We've had issues here in Shelbyville that are no different than any other community, but I think the way that we take it upon ourselves to go get those issues addressed and looked at immediately and not let things linger, that plays a large part in of being peaceful.
City and county government, along with protesters across the state, realizing that conversation can spark action.
Everywhere across the country, there are people that want their voice to be heard, and they want to get out to show that they're supporting some of the things that are happening in some of these bigger metropolitan areas, and they want them to know that they're not alone.
Dalton Godby, WDRB News.
Mark Weinberg's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
Colin here. I haven't had a chance to talk about this much lately. I wanted to get you caught up on this one because I think we're going to start to really move in the direction of pollen being an issue and combining it with air quality issues on Sunday. It's not going to be the best day. Moderate high in the pollen category with grasses and tree pollen continuing to be an issue. And then on Monday, we are in the moderate and high category again. So just note, pollen issues are going to be moderate high on Sunday coupled with low air quality. So again, not ideal for Sunday. Air quality alerts in effect for a chunk of the metro and a chunk of southern Indiana. I promised you that if you guys sent me some of your best sunset pictures on my Facebook page, I'd show you. And this one came in from Brittany McCain out of Goshen. That is awesome. The colors on those clouds, spectacular. Patrice Lux sent this picture, and look at the details of that cumulus cloud. So that we refer to as a mackerel sky. These are alto cumulus clouds. Brilliant colors on there. And then one more, which I would say is my favorite of the night. This one coming in from Aura McKinley. It's unique. The colors in the sky are great, but the colors in the water, it's rare that they're even more vibrant than they are in the sky. Aura, you knocked it out of the park. That is awesome. What a sunset here. Looking around the area right now, you can see it's quiet. What made it quiet is this cluster of storms to the south. So we got in the subsidence, or the sinking air behind it. That's the reason last night I told you I was going to lower the rain chance for today. So we reached a high of 88 degrees after a low of 68. The averages are 83 and 63. Today was very clearly above normal. Temperature right now is 81, and I think the most important thing here to note is the dew point, because that speaks to the comfort factor. A lot of people in the old days used to use humidity, and I've tried over the years to tell you it's useless. If the dew point's below 65, you can have a humidity of 100% or 10%. It's not humid. It doesn't matter. Even if the humidity is 100%, it's still not humid. And the dew point's going to drop below 65 late tomorrow and Sunday. In Metro, we're still biasing near about 80. We've got outside of the city as cool as around 73 in French Lake, but it's important to note it's not colder behind the cold front. In fact, as you look at the 24-hour temperature changes, everything speaks to the fact that it's not going to get colder behind this front. It is going to get less humid, and I think that's a big part of the story. And you will notice there's fewer clouds. But one of the things I told you we would talk about in this is Tropical Storm Cristobal. Now you'll notice as you look at this, it's not an impressive looking storm. It's just not. It's going to make landfall on Sunday with around 60-mile-an-hour winds. But for us, what's interesting is that it recurves in our direction. So let's go through advanced track, and it shows tomorrow's partly cloudy. It shows a northerly wind, which is going to drop the dew points late, becoming more comfortable. Dew points are way lower on Sunday afternoon. You'll enjoy between 85 and 90 with less humidity. Monday, we make a big move upward. I think it goes to 92, and then watch how the tropical storm combines with this low. So that moves to the north. It doesn't have robust wind energy, but it does have enough that any storms that fire on either Tuesday or Wednesday could be strong. Right now, I would say late Tuesday would be the day to watch, but we're still a number of days out, and it is a tropical system. 72 degrees tonight with some high clouds under a southwest wind at 3 miles an hour. Tomorrow's high temperature comes in at 91 degrees. It's a partly cloudy and toasty day. Air quality alerts in there on Sunday, but look, it's less humid, and that's an upside. Sizzling on Monday at 92. Cristobal is here Tuesday, Wednesday, and let's talk about good from this system behind. It drags through a legitimate cold front that reduces our high to 83 degrees on Thursday.
We will take that. Thanks, Mark. Nationwide protests expected through this weekend. Lauren Blanchard on how a lot of protesters are looking for meaningful ways to have an impact.
Protests continue across the country calling for change and an end to racial injustice, all in the name of George Floyd.
We cannot let George Floyd's death be in vain.
A small step towards police reform coming out of Minneapolis following the arrest of the 4 officers involved in the death of George Floyd while in police custody. The city has agreed to ban the use of neck restraints and chokeholds by police and will require officers to report any use of unauthorized force. Approval by the chief would also be needed for crowd control measures such as tear gas. This is all under an agreement with the Human Rights Department that is expected to be approved by the city council and would be enforceable in court.
This system does not work. This system cannot be reformed, and we must do something different.
And after 2 weeks, protesters are vowing to maintain their momentum at least until they see significant change.
We have to keep moving forward on it because once you start discussing it, it dies, right? And we don't want that anymore.
Major cities gearing up for more protests this weekend. In New York City, an 8 p.m. curfew remains in effect. And in the nation's capital, police shutting down several streets to prepare for the thousands of expected protesters in the area.
We anticipate the largest demonstrations with regards to numbers that we've seen in the city to date.
In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.